Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser and Nolan Gosley. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
And welcome into the program. This is Your Course to Retirement, your weekly show to help clarify and uncomplicate the financial, investment, and retirement planning world. Our resource for a common sense approach to planning is founder of Cornerstone Retirement Partners, CFP, certified financial planner, Ron Corser, as always, providing the guidance and perspective. And Ron, we always appreciate your time here on the program.
Good morning, Peter. Good morning to everybody listening to today's program. Here we are in the middle of January. Winter is upon us, and isn't that dandy? So the way I look at it is this way. I'm not the optimist that says the glass is half full or half empty. I look at the glass and say, it's full. It's got water in it. It's got air in it. It's pretty much filled up. But one of the things we're going to talk about today is money. And sometimes people say, well, isn't there more to life than money? And my answer is absolutely, there is. But to quote a really famous person, Joan Rivers, who once said, now, I'll read this quote for because I thought it was appropriate. People say that money is not the key to happiness. But I always figured if you have enough money, you can get a key made. So I think that's the way to look at money. You know, it's a tool we can use, or it's a tool that can lock us into a cage, whatever we want to do. But let's just talk about money. And I'm going to focus on two things going forward. The first one is because I have this conversation with our clients on a seemingly more frequent basis. And that really concerns their parents. And it's an important discussion to have with parents. Now, I know that there's almost two distinct camps when it comes to how do we share information, financial information with our family, our kids. There's one camp, mom and dad don't share anything. It's all big secrets. And when they die, the kids will find out.
Yeah.
That's one approach, and it can be kind of okay sometimes, but it can also be, oh my, that was a surprise. And the other part is we'll share everything with the kids, and I don't come down on either one of those for our clients or people I help. In my own life, my wife and I have decided to share everything with our children. When we did our trust work, we went back and told them, here's how everything is laid out. Here's how it's going to be. This is non-negotiable. This is how it is. But I want you to know about it. On the other hand, sometimes when parents don't tell their children anything, it can be out of a desire to keep it secret because it's so personal. But it also can be, and I've seen this happen, where the parents really they don't have a financial plan. And they don't know where to begin. And sometimes they feel a little almost embarrassed that they haven't put anything together. And
can't talk about what doesn't exist, in other words.
Yeah, and I get that. So we're gonna spend some time here on what we call 9 questions that you perhaps can think about asking your parents, or if you put yourself in the grandparents' shoes, what you would like to be asked, because I think it's important. It doesn't matter what approach you take. It just gets down to a question of, you can leave a potential mess with your kids if you don't tell them where everything is. I'll give you a great example. My mom and I used to go around. She died about, 25 years ago. And she was kind of, a little concerned about who knew about her money. But she had money in 16 different banks. And I just gently would ask her, Mom, we need to know where all these CDs are, because that's all my mom ever bought. And she finally actually did a little bit of an estate plan through the UAW and made a list of where her CDs were. There were 16 different CDs, 16 different bank locations. When she died, we thought we had it all together. And about 7 months, 8 months later, I got another letter from a bank that we didn't know about, said, well, your CD has come due, and if you don't talk to us in 3 days, we're going to renew it. So we had to go through, one of these crazy crash and burns where they were on the other side of the state in Detroit. I took the death certificates and durable power of attorney and went to the bank, and fortunately we were able to do that. The other part is that my stepdad had Ford stock, and it was held in the old time certificate, and he owned it, and my mom was the beneficiary. Well, they both died. We didn't even know he had it. We didn't know he had it. We found that out about a year later. So fortunately, my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, is a lawyer, and she was able to very conveniently and quickly open up the account so we could cash in the shares. But see, that's what happens when parents don't at least write things down and say, look, if something happens to me, go into the cookie jar because there's a secret list there of where all my stuff is. As a parent, my wife and I have figured out we want our kids to know. I don't care if they know, because they're not getting anything until we both die, unless we give it to them. So it's no big deal to me, and they're going to share equally. But I don't want them to have a mess to deal with. I don't want them to be, oh my, we didn't know about this, or this was not taken care of. So we're going to go through some of these questions that I think as children we can ask our parents. There's nothing wrong with that. And as parents, we can answer our children in whatever way we want. But it's important to have the conversation. So
Ron, also, as we talk about these questions in the perspective of discussing this with family members, particularly in this case, we're premising this on the idea of having these discussions with parents. But these are essential questions for us ourselves to also have answered, not to potentially become a burden on our children who, at this point in time, may still be reliant upon us.
Absolutely. And I've been in this business for about 26 years now, and I've seen, I think, just about everything from really great planning to, oh my goodness, what do we got here is a giant mess, and everything in between. And it's a lot easier. I tell people, you're going to leave memories to your family. You have no choice. As human beings, we're going to leave memories. One of the memories we're going to leave them is, how did we handle our financial affairs? Did we make it so that the children come in and see us and have experiences? It's really neat. Man, mom and dad had everything so organized, I couldn't believe it. This thing was just smooth. To, oh my goodness, mom and dad didn't do anything. I don't even know where half the stuff is. We're going to leave a memory. It's up to you as parents, and it's up to us as parents and grandparents to determine what that memory is going to be like. So let's go through it. First question, mom, dad, do you have a financial plan? And it's a simple question. And what I'm saying here is, you don't have to have a group meeting with your 5 children, 14 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. This can be done as a one-on-one, just very easily. Do you have a financial plan? And they may say, well, I've got some CDs in the bank, I got this brokerage account, and I got an IRA and some life insurance. But do you have a plan? Those are just things you own. Do you have a plan? Do you know what's going to happen to everything when you die? It's a hard question to ask your parents, because none of us really want that to happen, but it is a fact of life. So I ask the question, do you know what's going to happen when you die? When I go back to my mom's experience, I finally had to say to her, Mom, I know that you've got my brother Ricky and I as beneficiaries on a lot of things, but we're still not sure where everything is. And there's still a lot of stuff that we don't know what you want to do about it. The house where my aunt was still living, what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do with that? So I think it's a really valid question to ask, do you have a plan? And it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be very simple, but you need to ask that question.
Ron, I would also say that beginning that conversation that way seems very unintrusive. It's just, just a question. Hey, do you have a plan? We're not asking specifics or where things are or the details of the account values. It doesn't seem like we're in it to find out how much money we might inherit. That is a question just to make sure that their well-being is taken care of. Hey, mom, dad, do you have a financial plan? I think that's a great way to start the conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't require that we say, well, I have this much money. and you're going to get this and your sister's going to get that. Just say, do you have a plan? And the second part is, have you made up a list? If you have a plan, part of that plan is, here's where all my accounts are. Here's where you call. One of the things I always ask when parents, our clients introduce us to their children, or even when we do reviews, I've said, look, because they may ask, they say, what's going to happen when we die? I said, well, you've got beneficiaries. We've created a plan for you. Tell your children to call us. Tell your children to call us, and we will make sure that your plan works exactly as you've laid it out. The kids don't have to know how much money there is. They just have to know kind of where it is and who they should contact to make sure that they get all the information they need to transfer the accounts, to distribute the inheritance, all of that stuff.
Well, again, I think that these are important conversations to have, and a great non-threatening way to start that conversation is just asking if the plan or a plan is in existence without getting into too much detail is fantastic. And then if the answer is yes, and in order to just know and be able to sort of account for things if and when something happens, Ron, do you have a list of where I need to look, or a place and a location that I should go? Because, Ron, you mentioned it, and I have seen this situation firsthand. You don't want your children or your loved ones to be waiting around for the mail to show up in order to know where you have stored or stashed different accounts or different pots of money. And unfortunately, if we have not formulated a plan, if we do not have that list somewhere, that is a reality that many beneficiaries face after the passing of their parents or their loved ones, their spouse in certain cases.
Yeah, it's a big one too. So the first one is ask your dad, mom and dad if you have a plan. Now, think about this. If you're going to ask your parents about this, indirectly, you're asking yourself about it too. So it's kind of like two things are parallel here. You're asking your parents about their plan, but it's also serving as a checklist, so to speak, for your own plan. So we got that. Do we have a plan? Do we know where your accounts are? A third one is, if you have a will and you've got an estate, who's the executor? Who's going to be in charge of handling your estate when mom and dad die, when you die? Now, it's somebody say, well, my eldest son or my daughter's going to do it. And my question always is, do they know they're going to be the executor? Do they understand that? Do they understand the requirements? Because it's not just something you're saying, well, my mom, we got to send this money here, do this with that. Being an executor carries some responsibility and potential liability. What do I mean? The executor is responsible for filling out the last tax return for mom and dad. It has to be filed. The executor is responsible if a mistake is made in that last tax return, or in the way account assets are distributed, anything. And the IRS audits that. And they do a pretty good job of auditing a lot of it. The executor is on the hook for any money that could be owed in terms of back taxes, fees, or anything like that. So it's a responsibility that you really have to pick a child, so to speak, who's going to do it. Some people want to have both of them do it. I guess you can do that, that you run the risk perhaps of the children disagreeing on some things. But if you've got a clear-cut trust or a lot of information in your will and the executors know what they're supposed to do, it makes it easier. But there's a responsibility to be an executor, and you want to pick somebody who can handle that responsibility. So that's a very important part of it. And it's the third part of this whole program that we're doing here of what should we do to make sure that everything is in order when God calls you home.
Well, again, if you'd like to have these conversations, or if you feel that your own or your parents or your children's planning should be a priority, pick up the phone and give Cornerstone Retirement Partners a call. They do offer the opportunity to have these conversations in a non-pressure, no-cost setting where you can get expert guidance and perspective with no cost, no obligation for that initial review, financial and retirement planning strategy session. 386-755-9018, the number to call. No, that's not right. I'm blanking. Sorry, 1 second. I didn't have it right in front of me. I got to search for it. 616-54321. 616-301-2581, the number to call. That is 616-301-2581. You can also go online, cornerstone-rp.com. That is cornerstone-rp.com online. There's additional resources, information, reports, all kinds of tools and calculators that you can use to help in your own financial progress, education, and understanding, and to help those around you, your loved ones, those that you care about, get a better handle on their finances as well. That is the really top goal there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners, for you to be more informed, educated, and therefore confident with your money. And that's why they help in the planning process. Again, the number to call, 616-301-2581. That's 616-301-2581. Ron, what are some other questions that we could open the conversation up with parents or loved ones or family members about the importance of the financial planning and where things are?
Part of it is asking some questions about what kind of accounts mom and dad have. And one of the key questions is, Mom, Dad, do you have any life insurance still in place? Because we have to deal with that a little differently, perhaps, than we deal with your investment accounts or the bank CD. It's a little bit of a different creature. And who are the companies that you have life insurance with, and who are the beneficiaries? And that's important to know, because when we have clients that have life insurance in place and they die, we help the children, if you will, who is ever going to inherit it, go through that process of filing the paperwork with the company and making sure that they're using the right form and we have everything done. And how this, every insurance company kind of handles everything the same way, except they all have little different ideas of how to do this, of how do they get the money to the beneficiaries. So this is an important question to ask. And again, if so far what we've covered it seems like pretty simple, but it's so important, of asking your parents if you have a plan, asking your parents, do you have some life insurance in place? Who's going to be the executor? Where are your accounts located? Those are really basic questions. And we actually have a little form that we can get people to create a document that has all of that in there. So if this is starting to touch a nerve with anybody out there, or it's something you want us to review, again, we're not attorneys. We don't create estate plans, but we can create questions to ask an attorney if you need some help in creating an estate plan. So give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com, and put your name in there, and we'll get a hold of you and help you in any way we can. So those are important questions to ask. Let's go to another one here as I go through the list.
Well, Ron, hold on. 5, 4, 3, 2. Just the existence and the location of those important documents, absolutely vital, not only to have, but to tell other people where they are located, if not provide them a copy. Ron, passing away, not the only time that several of those documents are required. If you've got a medical emergency, those documents may be of vital importance for both you to have and for those who could make decisions on your behalf to know about their existence and their whereabouts, where they can find them almost immediately, to be able to, in fact, make those important decisions for you.
It is important. And I'll just give you an example in our life. Our daughter lives in Ionia with her husband, and our son lives down in Columbus, Ohio. So how have we arranged our things? The medical power, that if both my wife Nancy and I, or something happens and we're hanging upside down at Spectrum Health, who's going to stand in and make decisions for us? Well, my daughter is about 45 minutes away. She has that responsibility. We've talked to her about it. We've talked to how we want to be dealt with, how we want things done. You know, in my own case, I've told her very clearly, you know what, after 21 to 30 days, if that's as good as it's going to get, and I'm on a ventilator or something, pull the plug. That's how I want it. God will handle the rest of it. My son is in Columbus, So he's a little farther away when it comes to the healthcare issue, but we've given him the durable power, so to speak, for finance. So both my daughter and my son are on board with those two things, and they know their responsibilities. So it's done. There's not going to be anything surprising. I'll tell you an interesting story. I once ran into, we had a single lady who suffered what was potentially a stroke, but she was in the hospital. They didn't think she was going to live. And her daughter called me. We had a nice relationship and said, can you help me in some way? So I actually went down to the hospital just to be with the daughter. And the doctors were looking at me like I was this person's husband. I couldn't make any decisions. So I kind of just mumbled and stumbled. And the point is that the mother didn't have anything, didn't have a simple will, didn't have a durable power for finance or health, nothing. So the issue would have been, if she survives, they said she'll probably be in somewhat of a vegetative state. But she has her assets over here. Too bad, not going to be able to deal with them. She's going to potentially have to go through conservatorship, which is a 2 to 3 month issue, and it's messy. Fortunately, she recovered, and they went out and put together a very simple but effective plan. See, we always think we have it together until something happens and we realize we don't. There's an expression in our industry, and I use it a lot to get a laugh out of people, but it goes like this in the financial world. Nobody knows who's swimming naked till the tide goes out. And I use that, I laugh about it sometimes, but that's the truth. You don't want the tide to go out to reveal something that you wish had been taken care of earlier. So that's what we're trying to help you understand with this program today. There's some simple steps you can take. We could be a great help to you in putting this together. So give us a call if it's interesting to you. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com, and we'll help you. Put your information in there and we can help you. We can help you avoid the tide going out. You didn't realize that something wasn't quite right.
Again, that number, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or online at cornerstone-rp.com, cornerstone-rp.com. Ron, sometimes in families, there are specific items that may be a little more sentimental to one individual specifically or in particular. I imagine that needs to be part of the conversation. If there are any special bequests to specific family or friends, in case the executor or whoever is settling things needs to know your wishes. You need to express them ahead of time, and that's part of the conversation with parents or children as you are figuring these things out.
I'll tell you, that is one big giant landmine in the family right there. You know, and it gets down to this. Let's say you want to leave a necklace to your daughter and you don't tell anybody about it, but you told your daughter. And then when you die, there's the necklace and 2 other daughters wanted it also. That creates really big problems in the family. And I go again, I'll talk about some of this I've learned from my own family. I was a little background. I was raised by my grandparents till I was about 7 in a little coal mining town in Pennsylvania. And my grandmother had 16 children, 14 of who survived in a 4-room, 1 coal stove kind of existence. And we had an outhouse. So the story I always tell my kids is I did literally have to walk to school 20 miles uphill both ways in the middle of winter. And you have not lived until you've used an outhouse in the middle of January when the temperature is about 11 below zero. Anyhow, I love telling that. They want to run and scream and leave the room, but they can't. I won't let them. So here's what we go through when we think about this. It's important for you to list who you want to have, this, that, or the other thing, because your children and grandchildren will fight about it. Going back to my story, 4-room house, it was left to all 14 of the children plus me, because I had lived with them. So there's 15 people in this house. when my grandparents died and my uncle who lived there his life died, we had to get rid of the house. 13 of the children plus me signed off on it. One uncle didn't. He thought because he was the youngest, he should get the house. Now, it took 3 years and about $18,000 in lawyer fees to get this all rectified. The house sold for $21,000. We're not talking about a Taj Mahal here, but it took 3 years, a lot of bad feelings over something that should never happen. And it would have been avoided if my grandparents had handled that, but nobody did that. So that's just a little thing of saying, I've seen families argue over some of the strangest things. You know, mom promised that ring to me. No, she didn't. She wanted me to have it. Yeah. So to avoid that, you can list everything that you want to go to each individual child. And once you pass away, you know, it's sealed in cement so they can be happy or sad, whatever you've decided to do. But it's really important. And it goes to understanding, like we talked about, somebody needs to know what the financial power is for that you have in your life, who the executor is, what are the rules and regulations, and what they're responsible to do, so that they know beforehand, before you die, they know what they have to do and what's going to happen.
And again, these are not necessarily all items that your financial planning team would handle, but certainly your financial planning team should be aware and proactive enough to encourage you to have handled these things, not only for yourself, but in the conversations with your family as well, as we are talking about helping family members to tackle and address financial and general planning priorities on today's program, and how and where and when to have those conversations. If you need any help with your own specific planning, making sure that you've got these tackled, or in those conversations with family members and loved ones, pick up the phone and give Cornerstone Retirement Partners and CFP Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser a call, 616-301-2581. That's 616-301-2581. 616-301-2581. We've got to take a quick break, but we'll come back and talk more about the interesting issues that the sandwich generation faces in your and your family's planning efforts here on Your Course to Retirement with Ron Corser.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser and Nolan Gosley. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for the potential of tomorrow. Visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
And we're back here on Your Course to Retirement. Grand Rapids, your resource for a common sense approach to planning. Cornerstone Retirement Partners founder, CFP Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser here on this week's edition of the program. And we are talking about some of the interesting challenges that we are faced in the sandwich generation, between a couple different generations, planning for ourselves, assisting with our parents, helping to get our children off on the right financial foot. These all have separate challenges, but they all amount to a lot of pressures being put on current savers and investors and proactive planners. And Ron Corser is here sharing some of the conversations that we can have with family members in order to make sure everybody is in the know and planning proactively to give us the best potential outcome. If you've got questions or concerns for your own planning or for those conversations with family members and loved ones, pick up the phone and give a call. They always offer an opportunity for a complimentary review, analysis, and strategy session to get the conversation going and for you to have a plan in place. 616-301-2581. That's 616-301-2581. You can also always go online to cornerstone-rp.com, cornerstone-rp.com, and the podcasts are archived there. You can go back and listen to them, and you can click on important links in the show notes and descriptions. Articles, reports, things that we have talked about are always always there and available for you. Pick up the phone and give a call. The easiest way to get in touch and start that conversation, though, 616-301-2581. So, Ron, as we are talking about the conversations to have between generations in order to make sure all planning is squared away, where do we go next? We talked about having those legal documents, understanding where assets were. Do you have a plan? Is there life insurance in place? What are some of the other important topics to tackle in that conversation to have an open dialogue, but not be too intrusive or threatening?
Here's a big one. And I again, I'm not, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about myself and my family to make myself important, but we've run into these things. So we were raised, my brother and I, by an aunt when we came up. We were living in the Detroit area, and she worked at GM, got a pension, but she upraised my brother and me too. And over time, she ended up in a nursing home. And every once in a while, she would get an infection or something, and she'd end up in a hospital. And she ended up on a ventilator once, but she recovered a lot. And we had conversations, my brother and me, with her, and she made it known, and we put it in writing in what's called a living will, that she wouldn't be resuscitated if this happened again. So that's the background. So it happened again. And she was in the hospital on a ventilator. And my brother, I got down there, my brother got down there, and my aunt's sister, who was in the area, was there. And we visited with her, but obviously she was comatose. And we went out of the room and talked. And my brother and I knew what my aunt wanted, because not only had she talked about it, it was in writing. And we said, well, we're gonna pull the ventilator, we're gonna unplug her. And my other aunt, her sister, said, no, we can't do that. I couldn't do that. And the response was in a very nice and loving way. I just said, Aunt, that's not up to you. Aunt Helen already made the decision, and Rick and I are gonna honor that. She got very upset. She and her husband left the hospital. We went back into the room, had the nurse pull the plug and everything. And then my aunt died, and it was a sad time, but I said goodbye to her at that point in time. So that's the importance of having thought through how you want to be cared for at the end of life. It's a really uncomfortable thing for a lot of us to think about, but it's such an important thing, because without that, it would have been a lot more difficult to go along with what my aunt wanted. So that's really important, the living will part. Give it some thought. Mom and Dad, how do you want to be cared for? I had the conversation with my mother, and all my mother kept saying is, son, don't put me in a nursing home. And I said, Mom, I won't do it, any way possible. But she ended up having to do that. She just passed away at home. But it's so important to have those conversations. And by having them with your parents, you have them for yourself too. So if this is important to you, give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. I can't do the document. We're not lawyers, but we can have the conversation. I can share my life story with those things, and I do it because it's important, I think, for folks to see it from another point of view, but we can help kind of put this thing to line it up. So give us a call at 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your name in there and we'll help you. Just kind of walk through, answer the questions, come up with a plan, things that'll make your life easier and simpler and give you some peace of mind going forward.
Ron, in the situation with your aunt and in the situation of so many other proactive planners who have thought these things through, discussed them, and documented them in advance, it makes that so much easier, because then there's not a decision that needs to be made or fought about amongst family members. The decision's already been made, discussed, documented. There is knowledge of that decision. It's now just a matter of honoring the wishes of that have been documented. And so it makes things that much easier, even and especially during what is obviously a very difficult set of circumstances. So important things, again, that we are discussing about the extra pressures on the sandwich generation. And these are 9 questions to have those conversations across generations about family financial planning, to make sure that things are taken care of and that the process is as easy as possible on everyone. And so, Ron, that legal area, not one that you specifically handle, but one that you definitely have conversations about to make sure that your clients have tackled and taken care of. And again, ladies and gentlemen, not just a financial perspective here on the program today. Coordinating our efforts from a financial, from a legal, from a tax standpoint is going to give us the optimal outcome and the best results. And if you'd like to start that conversation or double check any part of it, give Cornerstone Retirement Partners a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Ron, where does the conversation go from there, or where does the help and assistance continue from that point? Once those wishes are all documented, we've got the legal documents and those who should execute them taken care of and chosen.
Probably the last point of conversation is what happens if we need long-term care. That is one of the most difficult conversations to have, because everybody thinks when you mention long-term care, it's going to be one flew over the cuckoo's nest. They're going to put me in a cellar where there's no light, no air conditioning. You're going to hose me down on Saturday and feed me gruel. And I just say, yeah, I guess that could happen, but trust me, it isn't. It doesn't have to be that way. But it's a conversation that we need to have because we're living longer and longer. At some point in time, we may need custodial help. That's what long-term care is for, custodial help. You can't do certain things. You can't feed yourself, take your own meds. You have transfer problems, continence issues, pattern blah, things like that. And you can't do those. So you need to be cared for. But here's the key. When we think of long-term care, we always think, oh man, I got to go into an institution. And I tell you, that's not the case unless something really terrible happens. You need to be cared for in your own home. And so you need to have a plan. How am I going to stay in my own home and get the care I need for as long as I can?
Most of us want that. That is the desire.
Absolutely.
Plan of action for most of us.
Absolutely. So you got to have a conversation. My mom always said, son, please don't put me in a nursing home. And I promised not to do it, but what if something would have happened where she had a stroke or something and we couldn't care for her at home? So these are important questions. It doesn't always require that you buy long-term care insurance, although that may be an option. And there's different ways to handle that. And one of these days, we'll probably do a program on long-term care coverage and how to approach it. But it's an important conversation to have. You need to know how people want to be cared for. You need to know, once you've had the conversation with your mom and dad, are you going to have that same conversation with your children? I've had that conversation with my kids. I want to be cared for at home. My wife and I have made a provision to have long-term care so it pays for coverage at home. But I want to sit home, eat junk food till the cows come home, watch college football and basketball and John Wayne movies and NCIS. I'm going to be a happy guy. I don't want to go away from the home. And hopefully God will let me live to be 100 and that won't happen. But it's important to have a conversation. It really is, because I've run into situations, from my point of view, too often, where it's, oh my goodness, mom just had a stroke. We don't know what to do, how to handle this. We don't know. What are we going to do? And it's not the way you want to approach a catastrophic kind of a situation. So have those conversations. We can help with the questions. We're good at the questions to help you find an answer. So this is important to you to find answers for your questions. Give us a call at 616-301-2581. 616-301-2581. We can help you with the questions to find the answers to create a good plan for your parents, but more importantly, maybe the best plan you could ever have, because it's not something you've gone through either. So give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your information in there and we will help you. It's a promise.
Ron, I want to touch on 2 points that you just made, and maybe number one, the most important, that it is not a selfish notion to put our own planning as the top priority, because if we can plan the best for ourselves, we serve to help stabilize and pass those important values on to everyone around us. I think that that is one of maybe the most important aspects in being a proactive planner, is that yes, the money and the dollars, they are important, but maybe more important is the value in caring for those around us that the process of planning provides for, implies, and helps us to realize.
Yeah, it works on both ends, for yourself and for the parent. You know, when we were raising our kids, sometimes my children would come to me and have a question. Why did they come to me? Because there was something they needed to know. It's the same thing with this, what we're calling life planning. For those of us who still have parents who are living, you know, I want to encourage you, go to your parents and ask them questions. Mom, Dad, I care about you. How do you want me to care for you at the end of all of this? How do you want to be treated? What happens if you have something happens that requires long-term care? What do you want me to do about that? Can you tell me how your estate plan is laid out? Who's going to be in charge? I have a brother. Is it going to be my brother, or is it going to be me, or both of us? How do you want to handle that? We want to make sure that this works really good for you so you don't have to worry about anything. So Mom and Dad, I just want to ask you a bunch of questions, and let's see if we can come up with some answers. And you may not have all the answers. That's okay. We can start to think about the ones that you don't have an answer for. I love you dearly, and I want to do this your way. I want to make sure that you're content, that you're taken care of, because I care about you and I love you, and I want it to be as good as it can get. I think if you have that kind of approach and that kind of a conversation with your parents, you'll be very surprised at the response you get. It'll be a very kind and loving, and it'll tell your parents that you really do care about them. Because every once in a while, as parents, we wonder, do our kids, do they really say what they mean? Do they really care about me? Or if something happens to me, they're just going to put me in a car and drive me down to the home and push me out and then drive off. So it's a great conversation to have. It's a very kind conversation. And when I had it with my own parents, we were close, but it brought us even closer, even tighter. My brother Ricky and I were on the same page with my mom and dad, and we didn't care about what the rest of the world thought. We knew how to take care of them, and we did. We did it the way they wanted it to be cared for. My mom went through the last 5 weeks of her life at home in hospice care. Some of the greatest conversations and blessed time I ever had were those 5 weeks, but it was almost a 2-year thing. Same with my stepfather, because he died about 4 months later. And we cared for them the way they wanted to be cared for. They didn't worry. So I encourage everybody, have the conversation. It's not a question of Mom and Dad, I want to know where all your money is. You spend your money, do what you want to do. But I want to be able to take care of you in a way that you're going to feel good about what's going on at the end of days. And it's going to be done your way. And I love you dearly. So that's a conversation I encourage everybody to have with their parents. Even if you haven't had the greatest relationship in the world with your parents, you will find by approaching it that way, where there's been roadblocks, some of that will go away. Where there hasn't been and there's just been love, it'll be even a tighter, warmer relationship. So take the time to ask the question of your mom and dad if they're still alive, because by asking them the question, it'll help you figure out what you need to do that's not done yet, or if everything is done. And have the conversation with your children. You know, I've told my children, I know I'm going off the rails here, but when we approached our children, my response was, Jen, Matt, I love you dearly. I want you to know this is what we've done to prepare for the end of days. This is what I'd like you to take responsibility for. This is what I'd like you to take responsibility for with Matthew and our son and daughter. This is how we want to be cared for. This is how our estate plan is laid out. I want you to honor our wishes. I want you to let God be God and pull the plug on me after 21 days or 30 days, whatever makes sense. I want you to honor that, because I will do the same for you if you ever need the care that you may need down the road and I'm still alive. So it was a great conversation that we had, and it changed, at that point in time in our lives, it changed some of the family dynamic. It really did. All of a sudden, as a parent, I wasn't the adversary so much. I was more of a human being. And I think my kids saw that. And I saw that they cared about me too, more than I thought. So it was a good conversation to have. So I encourage everybody listening to today's program, have that conversation. If you want us to be part of helping you with questions, with kind of laying out the format, with going through the 9 steps here that we talked about, give us a call at 616-301-2581. Or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your info in there and we will contact you and we'll help you in the best way we can. That's a promise. Okay, when you go through all of this, you'll have that wonderful thing called financial peace of mind. And that'll make everything better and easier and simpler. So give us a call, 616-301-2581. Other than that, have a blessed Sunday. Take care of yourself. Give your kids a call, give your parents a call, talk to them today about maybe the things we've talked about.
Well, I think that this program is so great week to week for the important financial information, the planning strategies that you discuss and educate the listeners on, Ron. But perhaps the greatest part of the program is the insight that we get into your perspective on planning and what on your perspective on planning and what has made that perspective and created that perspective in your life experiences, the motivations and inspirations that you've had from a financial perspective are so often life experiences. And I think it's great to get some insight on that. I think that everybody in a financial relationship should understand the perspective of the advisor that they are in a relationship with and what those motivations were formed from. So I enjoy and appreciate those. Now, Ron, you touched on helping kids. And for the last part of the program, if you don't mind, could we turn the tables and talk about the other side of this sandwich generation? And perhaps as we move into a new year here, and there are those out there that want to do the best things for their kids, or perhaps at this point for their grandkids, what are some of the things that we can do to help those next generations or those younger members of our families get off and started on the right financial foot?
Well, as a grandparent, I'm going to go strictly to the grandkids. You know, I tell everybody I kind of like my kids. I think they like me too most of the time, but I love my grandchildren. You know, if my 7-year-old grandson Max came up and said, "Grandpa, can I have the keys to your car? I want to go down to McDonald's," I'd probably give him $20 and the keys to my car and say, "Be careful, come on back home." So here's a couple things to think about when it comes to providing for grandchildren. Number one, it's okay to give them money, but understand the parents are going to get money. I'm not talking about giving them $10 for their birthday. I'm talking about setting up some sort of financial account for them. One of the best accounts you can do right now, it's the simplest, is set up a Section 529 college plan. You can put as much money as you want to in there, and the money goes in, and when they go to school or they use it for some other program that's qualified, the money comes out tax-free and can help defray some expenses. Another thing you can do as grandparents, for those of you who have children in college, is you can pay directly to the college, not give the money to the kids, but you can say, "Okay, I'm going to pay part of your tuition." And you write the check to the college, or "I'm going to pay for books." You write the check to the college. That is a verifiable, wonderful way to benefit your grandchildren, and it's a non-taxable event. It's basically considered, in the great scheme of things, a gifting thing. So that's another great way to provide for grandchildren who are going to school, to do that for them. A third thing you can do is you can set up an account for them. But I caution you to be careful, because money in their name down the road, the way current rules are laid out for getting college help, loans and things like that, money that they have in their own name goes against them. So sometimes it's just not a really good deal. And here's something I did with my own kids, and I'll leave you with this, because probably eyeballs are going to blow out of the people's heads. When my son had children, his first child, my wife Nancy and I issued life insurance policies on both my son and my daughter-in-law. We did that. We funded it. And we funded it for one basic reason, that the child was 2 years old. The child was 6 months old. They were going to use that money for college. So we created a unique life insurance program for my son and my daughter-in-law. We put the money into it. We pay for it every year. But at the end of 18 years, that policy is going to probably have in excess of $200,000 of cash value, both for my son and daughter-in-law. That money they can take out in the form of loans to finance the kids' college education if they need it. It's a great way, particularly for young families, if you really want to help them. So we provided a life insurance benefit for my son and daughter-in-law in case they die. They were already very well off financially, but we did this so that the kids would have money for college. And we were able to do it. I praise God for giving us the finances, but it's a simple plan and it made great sense. So if that's something that's kind of makes your eyeballs pop out of your head, you say, how does that work? Give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. There's a lot of things you can do. It's just trying to figure out what's the best and right thing to do for our grandchildren to help them going forward. Give us a call, 616-301-2581. And if anybody, by the way, would like to donate to my grandchildren's college education, our office number is 616-301-2581. We are an equal opportunity money acceptor for my grandchildren. So bless all of you who want to provide for us.
Donations always welcome to help the kids. Absolutely. Well, Ron, we talk about many challenges that we face in our own personal planning and progress, the risks that we will face, the headwinds, the challenges, and the solutions to proactive planners for how to address them and perhaps minimize or eliminate the impact that we could feel if those risks do affect us. And today on the program, specifically talking about some of the additional pressures as we are looking at generational planning. The sandwich generation, as they have been dubbed, have pressures not only for themselves, but caring for parents, caring for and getting children up and on the right foot. And for many of us, grandparents who also want to do the same for grandchildren. So generational planning is a high priority and something that you there and your team at Cornerstone Retirement Partners help a great deal with. First and foremost, by formulating the plans for individuals that you speak with, but having those conversations about how having that plan in place will be of benefit and serve not just them individually, but their entire family tree. And that's really what it's all about, is changing the direction, improving the situation of ourselves and our loved ones and family and those that we care about. That's the goal there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners. If you've got questions about your own financial, investment, retirement planning, generational planning, how to have those conversations, resources that can help and assist in those conversations, pick up the phone and give a call, 616-301-2581. That's 616-301-2581. And Ron, it is always a pleasure. Thank you for bringing these important points to light and having what can be sometimes difficult conversations with us here on the radio.
Well, thank you. And thank you for everybody listening to the program. Have a blessed Sunday. Tune in next week and we'll go forward with other things of interest to everybody. Take care.
Tune into Cornerstone Retirement Partners' full radio program, Your Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock at News Radio WOOD, or visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services.
Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the products featured